a few of you, just a few, have wanted to know my feeling about the timeline of when Christ will come. And I know there's several second comings of Christ and different events. When I'm in this video, when I'm referring to the second coming, I'm referring to the second coming, when he rules and reigns. Jesus Christ, rules and reigns from his temple in Jerusalem. And the earth will be in what I would think would be a terrestrial state. Those that that haven't died and are remaining on earth and are living a life such that they can exist in a terrestrial state will remain, and their bodies will be changed to be terrestrial. This is what I think, right? And I can go through some scriptures, but Section 88 is a really good one. But there are others, and this state of being would be similar to the three what we call Nephites. I don't know whether they're Nephites or Lamanites. So the three disciples that chose to stay on the earth until Christ rules and reigns. And then also John, the Revelator, who was also changed that way. And the city of Enoch will come. It's my belief that they'll come when the earth is prepared for them to come in a terrestrial state. I don't think they could come here if the earth hadn't already been terrestrialized. So this is just me. I think that we will see the city of Enoch come almost, if not simultaneously, to Christ, and the change that takes place when graves are opened up, and then those that are quickened will be caught up and then brought right back down to live during the millennial reign and participate in all the things that need to happen during that reign. So those are my thoughts on that. As you know, I feel like many events have already happened or are in the process of happening right in front of our eyes. There will be some in the church that would say we're not even close because the end comes when the gospel's preached to all the world. We also have the first shall be last and the last shall be first, where at first the gospel was brought among the Jewish people, and then it was taken away and brought to the Gentile nations. Now and then the Gentile nations, now it reverts. It will revert, and I think it already has to a big degree, back to the Jewish nation. We have the lost tribes. We have the gathering of scattered Israel. In my opinion, all of which has happened. We have this idea of the New Jerusalem, and in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, many people feel that that's a future event, and it'll only take place in the center of how several revelations in the Doctrine and Covenants say that it's Jackson County, Missouri, and that's a specific place. My feeling is that was to be. It didn't work out, and so the New Jerusalem is part of the restoration, and it's where keys were restored. And for me, it's a moving target, and it encompasses, as referred to by our prophet in the Doctrine and Covenants, that the New Jerusalem, the Article of Faith, the 10th Article of Faith, that the New Jerusalem will be on the American continent. And the only reference he gave when he quoted that in the April 2020 ensign was the 10th Article of Faith. He didn't quote any other scripture, and I think that's significant, so that this New Jerusalem, or Zion, is where the stakes are, and it's where temples are, and it's where the Spirit of the Lord can exist, and where priesthood keys exist, and where the restoration has occurred in the lives of many, many, many people. That's my feeling. That's just my feeling. But there definitely will be a center stake, if you will, on the American continent. That's scriptural, and we know that. Personally, I think looking at Jackson County is pushing off the second coming. That it can't happen until that's established, and I think we're already in the New Jerusalem phase. It'll continue to spread, and temples will dot this continent, the American continent, and will be in a sense, a New Jerusalem. I do feel that more events are, and more specific events have to do with Jerusalem and Israel itself than the Americas. I don't think any world government's going to help one bit. I don't think Donald Trump, the idea of him coming back and saving this nation, in my opinion, that's not to discount my admiration for him and what he did in his 4 years of being attacked the whole time. I feel like he was a godsend, and it gave us some time to prepare and really to expose what evil is. That's what I think his purpose was. The human trafficking, the pedophilia, sex slavery, all the evil things that were hidden are now exposed for those that want to find out about that and know that it exists. And that really happened under President Trump. So who we look forward to now, in my opinion, is Jesus Christ. Now, I know there's there's timelines, and I know there's the Enoch calendar, and there's other ways, the Hebrew or the Jewish calendar, and then the Gregorian calendar. There's all kinds of calendars, and so we wonder. My personal feeling is on this, and this is just my opinion, is that the Lord wants us to understand his basic time frame, and we have good scripture, good backup in that 1,000 years is a seal, and that approximately around the year 2000 would be the end of the sixth seal and the opening of the seventh seal. Now, here's how I like to look at the opening of seals. Quite often we think that the Lord will come at the opening of the seventh seal. So obviously the seventh seal hasn't been opened because he's not here reigning yet. And here's how I would like to explain how I feel about that. I know movie theaters haven't been frequented as much in the last years or a little over a year now. But if you haven't been to a movie for a while, think back. You check your phone, you go on to an app, if you will, and you see the start times of the movies, or you call up, or however you figure out when a movie is, and it gives you a start time of that movie. That's when it starts. Well, you go there and you get your popcorn and your Coke, and you go sit down, and you're there just within a minute of the start time. And so you're all excited, and you sit down, and there's this little blurb about getting a popcorn and a drink, advertising it. And then there's this little thing about silencing your cell phone, perhaps. And then a couple of other announcements. And then you get into some previews. And then you watch several previews. And then the movie starts. But the start time said, 8:30, let's say. And yet the movie didn't start until 8:50. So that's how I think these seals work and events in the seals, not to be confused with dispensations, and I can mention that in just a second here. So we have 4,000 years prior to Christ's birth, and then you have 2,000 years after. That's the end of the sixth seal and the opening of the seventh seal. So by saying opening, that's when the start time that you had your, when you have your movie ticket and it says start time, 8:30, but the movie doesn't actually start until, let's say, 8:50 because of all the previews. Well, I think we're in the previews right now. We're in the previews. We're in tribulation time. And that can be described in several different ways. We have, 7 years broke up in 3.5 year periods. And this is all, I shouldn't say up for debate, but there's different interpretations of all this. And then there is most Christians refer to a rapture, where saints are taken, the good people are taken before the tribulation. That's pre-trib. There's mid-tribulation believers that think that would go through a portion of the tribulation and then be taken up and quickened. And then there are those that believe that right before Christ comes, it would be quickened. Now, in our scriptures, and I think it's section 88, 90 through 93 or something like that, it's pretty clear that we believe in the rapture. Now, the word rapture does not exist in scripture, and I only use it so that it triggers members of the church. No. I use it because it's kind of a universal thing, but we can use caught up, quickened, whatever, but it is a rapture. My personal feeling is that members of the church are going to be going through tribulation and get refined and see where we're really at. But I do think that there's going to be this quickening prior to Christ's coming, and that's to prepare us for his second coming. Now, how far in advance? I don't think too far, because just like with the city of Enoch, the earth is going to need to be prepared for that quickening body to live. Now, you'd say, well, how does that work then with the three disciples of Christ from the Book of Mormon, as well as John? They were able to survive in a telestial world and have a terrestrial body. And that's where things get a little interesting and not necessarily confusing, but where different opinions can happen. So I'm not opposed to saying mid-trib rapture or towards the end of all tribulation rapture. I see an argument for both. I'm hoping for mid-trib rapture. I need some hair. I need new knees. I need an ankle. This left arm would be good, to have restored. So that's how I'm thinking things are. Now, here's a couple of events that I feel have to happen before we can even think that Christ is coming, that I don't think have happened yet. One is, and they're kind of all together, but these events are in Jerusalem. There's going to be a great war, unlike any other war Jerusalem has seen, and they've seen some doozies. This is the Battle of Armageddon. The Jezreel Valley lies, 60, 70 miles, probably 60 miles north of Jerusalem. It's a beautiful valley. I've talked about it many times. It's the Valley of Armageddon, and a valley that goes all the way, so if you just drew a straight line north of Jerusalem and then went west, you'd go right in and hit that valley, and then if you went straight west, you go right to the Mediterranean. And I've talked about this in current events, where the Chinese want to build a railroad that goes up through Saudi Arabia, across through Jordan, through Israel, and right to the Mediterranean, to supplement the Suez Canal with the ships. And we knew about that situation a couple of weeks ago with the Evergreen ship, blocking it and causing all kinds of problems. So there is a justification for this train. But also in that justification is the ability for a war to easily take place with all these accesses to the Jezreel Valley or the Valley of Armageddon, which really makes sense why there would be a battle there. And it's just a natural place for a gathering to occur. So we have this great battle and destruction. And the focus will be on Jerusalem, but in my opinion, the access will be through that valley and then through the mountains, or following basically the Jordan River and then coming up by Jericho and up to Bethany and then up to Jerusalem. Or it could just be through the mountains, and of course air, it doesn't matter, but land and sea will probably be through the Mediterranean. And then land could be this railroad as well, coming up from the south through Saudi Arabia, all attacking Jerusalem. Now, we have an alliance with Iran and China now. China basically owns Iran, $500 billion, close to that, a deal that China provides the funds. The U.S. Restrictions and all the things that were put into place to cripple Iran because of their developing nuclear enriched uranium to eventually get armaments that are of devastating capability. The words escaping me right now, but those restrictions that we spearheaded mean nothing anymore. And we have an administration now that was going to probably be taking those off the table anyway, but now Iran doesn't need that because they have money from China. So you can see, because Iran is the biggest threat right now to Jerusalem and could really cause this. So I see things heating up to the point where this great battle is very real and could happen very soon. The other thing is the two prophets, or the two witnesses, the two olive trees, the two lamp posts that's prophesied in the book of Revelation, Zechariah, and Isaiah, and the Doctrine and Covenants, where Joseph Smith, section 77, where Joseph Smith asks specifically. And I always think it's curious, the questions that Joseph asks about the book of Revelation. I suspect he asked a lot more and got more answers that we weren't allowed to hear. That's just my guess, but that one was in there. Now, look, I never want to go against Bruce R. McConkie. That there's two scholars and religious leaders that were key holders, major key holders, one being a prophet, the prophet, that had a lot of ideas about the second coming, Joseph Fielding Smith and Bruce R. McConkie. Now, Joseph Fielding Smith, his books, Doctrines of Salvation, were actually put together and compiled by Bruce R. McConkie. So they have a lot of similar ideas. But Bruce R., he specifically said that these two witnesses or prophets will be probably either members of the Quorum of the 12 or the First Presidency. I have a little different thought on that, but it's not a deal breaker, and I'm not trying to disrespect. And you'd probably be way better off thinking of or aligning yourself with Bruce R. McConkie than a guy like me. It does say that these prophets will be raised up unto the Jewish nation. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be Jews or Israelites, if you will. But for me, I think that's totally doable. I think where Bruce R. was coming from was that they needed the authority, and they needed to have the restored priesthood that was restored through the prophet Joseph and subsequent, and that they would fall in line because there's only one of those. My feeling is that the Lord could qualify anybody he wants. There's also another idea that I'm feeling more comfortable with, and that is that these two individuals are already translated beings, if you will, or quickened, terrestrialized beings. And I know what immediately those that know what I'm talking about are going to say, yeah, but it says they're going to die. And that's true, and I'll address that in just a second. So basically, these two witnesses are going to be part of this battle, if you will, and they're going to be defending Israel, and they're going to be for 3+ years. They're going to be fighting against those that want to destroy Israel, and they're not going to be able to be conquered. Finally, they're going to die, and I put die in quotes, and their bodies are going to lay in the streets, and they're going to mock them, and it's described very well, and then they're going to be resurrected. And they're going to lay the smack, and right then is when Christ will come, and he'll come from the Mount of Olives. It will split in two, and he'll come to his temple, which brings up the other thing. Now, the reason why I say death isn't necessarily how we might think of it in the Book of Mormon, and when Ammon is teaching, and I might have this wrong. It might be when King Lamoni's father is converted, but one of them lays dead, as if they're dead, and his wife even says, you know, some say I need to bury him because he stinketh, but to me he does not stinketh. And so it could be a situation like that, because what they withstand, these two witnesses, what they withstand for 3+ years in fighting is amazing. And it's almost like they would have to have a change at least come upon their bodies to withstand what's prophesied that they will withstand. So that's why I'm thinking the two possible individuals. Elijah is one for me because when he was on as an earthly being, as a mortal, he slew a lot of the priests of Baal, and he yielded a sword. And I think he's just that type of guy, and that he would be perfect. And he was quickened and taken. So he could possibly be one of these prophets that was raised up unto the Jewish nation to come back and fight the priests of Baal, if you will. It's just a thought, okay? So I know, some of you are going to think there's no way. And the other would be a New Testament translated being, and that would be John. Both raised up into the Jewish nation. And maybe you need that balance of John and Elijah as two witnesses. That's just a thought that I had, and I've had, I don't know, not for a long time, but as I study this, it just seems like those guys have to have superpowers to face. And even though their bodies would lay as if they were dead, it does say that they'll be dead, and I know that. But that's the thought that I've had. They would appear to be dead. They were conquered. And then Christ comes to his temple, which brings up the last thing, in my opinion, not the last thing that has to happen, but another thing. So we have the two witnesses. We have the great battle. We have the two witnesses, or the two prophets, or the two lampposts, the two olive trees. We have that, and then we have the building of the temple in Jerusalem. This has been told to us by our prophet, President Nelson. It's been prophesied, Zechariah, Ezekiel. Ezekiel's really good with it. But this temple will be built. Now, Again, I'll part ways a little bit with Bruce R. McConkie, and like I say, you'd be better to follow him than me. But he feels like that has to be built by members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints under that authority. And I don't feel that. I feel like that temple could be built by the Jews themselves. Wilford Woodruff, in his writings, has said that as well, that the Jews will build their own temple. But I don't want this to get, to find my talking head versus somebody else's talking head. I'm just talking about a possibility that this temple could be built. Now, there's a YouTube channel, the Temple Institute, and you can see, I've mentioned this many times, you can see these, some of these are pure Levites, and they've basically have everything ready. And they say even the construction of the temple could take just months to do, 6 to 9 months to build the temple. Now, we have there's several possible temple sites. I know there's a lot of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who are leaning towards the city of David. They've seen some videos by Carnegie, and I can't remember the other guy that actually originated it. But Carnegie's the one that's made it more popular. Or the Temple Mount itself, but then there's the Dome of the Rock, and there's some discussion there. There's a new Christian author. His name is actually Christian. I have his book right here. This is an amazing book, and we've actually exchanged some correspondence, email back and forth. But his theory is fascinating, and it's that the Golden Gate, the east gate that would face the temple or face the Mount of Olives. But let's say we're Christ and we're on the Mount of Olives, and if we look directly to the west, we're going to see the Golden Gates. And if Christ entered through those gates, which is, there's some prophecy, especially in Ezekiel, that talks about entering in those gates. Right now, they're all walled off, and there's a whole interesting history about that. But those gates are, if you're looking from the Mount of Olives and looking towards that eastern wall of the Temple Mount, those gates would be right of the Dome of the Rock. And right behind those gates on the Temple Mount is an exposed portion of bedrock. And there's a little canopy or covering over that. And it's a smooth surface of bedrock, which would be perfect in that David purchased the threshing floor. A threshing floor would have to be smooth. It's where they separate the wheat, right? And it has to be smooth, and then the chaff blows in the wind. You'd be up on this, and this threshing floor was purchased by David from the Jebusite, Onan, I can't remember. And so this would fit. It also says that they went up to the temple from the city of David. They went up. So there's a lot of things about this, and I know water is an issue and all that, and I can explain that maybe in a different video. So just to summarize real quick, the Battle of Armageddon, the 2 witnesses or prophets, the building of the temple, all those things are still yet to happen, in my opinion. But I see that could happen very, very quickly. One thing on the 2 witnesses, you think, well, that's going to be spectacular, and once that happens, we'll really know. Well, as I've seen things unfold, and as I've studied these things, sometimes these things happen right in front of our eyes, and we don't know it. I think that's how this will be. Remember, Christ said he's going to come as a thief in the night. Watch, therefore. Watch therefore. And we are a community of watchers. We are cows right there. And that's what we're doing. That's why we're studying these things and communicating with each other. That's why we love each other, because we want to be either quickened or resurrected immediately, right? When this great event happens. I do think we're close. I had one person said, "Okay, Palmer, just lay it out there. Say when it's going to happen." Well, again, I love timelines, but they're not my thing. I don't get it all. But I have a feeling for things, I think, that I can kind of put things together a little bit, maybe. Mostly from reading scripture and keeping up on current events, and especially world events. I would say we're very, very close. And by that, I could see these last three things happening very, very quickly. And I wouldn't put a time frame on it, but I would say within 5 years, those things could easily happen within 5 years. I mentioned this once before, but the Jordanian government, if you will, in the treaty of 1967, the Six-Day War, somehow, some way, it is the goofiest thing. Here the Jews conquer the Temple Mount, and yet they give it up to be administered by and policed by the Jordanian government. And so Jews now can hardly do anything there. They can't pray, they can't meditate openly, kind of thing. They're limited on the time that they can go up on the Temple Mount. And so it's really controlled by the Muslim faith. And there's some whole stories I could tell about that. But there is rumor that the Jordanian government is tired of this. They don't want to be involved anymore. And that Saudi Arabia, the Saudis have said we could do that. And there's some interesting things with that, because there is a better relationship with Saudi Arabia and Israel than Israel and Jordan. So you could see how something could happen. And if they could keep the Dome of the Rock there, a Dome of Spirits there, and build a temple right next to it, which would line up perfectly with the Golden Gate on the east end of the Temple Mount, where the Savior could come right through and into his temple, it'd be so interesting, because basically you would be having the two brothers side by side again. You'd have Isaac and Ishmael, right? Side by side. And Abraham's our father. So there's some cool concepts about this. Okay, so that's it. I didn't give out any scriptural references, hardly at all. I have them. I could, but for right now, I just wanted to give you the ideas that I have concerning how close things could be for the second coming of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Love you all. Talk soon.